Beneath the gilded statues, the roaring forums, and the marbled halls of Rome, an invisible network pulses, not of light or data, but of stone, parchment, and whispered authority. The Roman Empire appears unshakable from the outside, an iron fist cloaked in civilization. But its true strength isn't in its legions. It lies in something far more insidious, a system built to listen, control, and respond faster than any sword can strike. At the heart of this invisible machine is the Cursus Publicus, Rome's elite courier network. Disguised as a mundane logistics tool, it is in fact the empire's spinal cord, carrying not just scrolls, but strategies, secrets, and threats. Messages sealed with wax hold the fate of cities. A single letter can summon an army or end a life. Then one day, a courier vanishes. He was riding from Lugdunum to Massilia, bearing an encrypted message from a senator to a northern governor. A routine delivery, until he disappeared along a well-patrolled route, leaving behind only a broken saddlebag and a trail of hoofprints swallowed by mud. The message? Never found. Its contents? Unknown, officially. But in Rome's shadowy halls, word spreads. It contained intelligence that could unravel the very foundation of the empire's communication web. Not just political scandal, not just military dissent. Something worse, a flaw. Now, in the marble corridors of the Curia Julia, senators whisper and shift uncomfortably. In the dark corners of taverns in Gaul, rumors begin to ferment, and in the Subura slums of Rome, a blind poet recites a suspiciously accurate tale of a missing rider and a message that burns the throne from within. The Praetorian Guard begins silent inquiries. A provincial general receives sudden, unscheduled orders, and a young, idealistic scribe named Cassia, daughter of a disgraced mapmaker, is summoned to decode a strange symbol found at the site of the courier's last known location. The audience doesn't know it yet, but this isn't just the story of a lost messenger. It's the first crack in Rome's perfect mask, and the network that binds the empire is starting to fray. The Roman roads were never just roads. They were veins, pumping not only troops and trade but control, fast, silent, invisible. They stitched the empire together with ruthless precision, allowing orders to travel faster than dissent could rise. But what happens when those arteries are cut from within? It begins with whispers in Hispania, delays in grain shipments. Then in Gaul, a tribute goes missing en route to Rome. But the true tremor comes from Britannia. There, the roads have gone silent. Not a single courier has arrived in over 6 days. At first, Rome suspects bandits, then sabotage. But when 3 riders from the Cursus Publicus are found murdered, their throats cut clean, their satchels untouched, the alarm bell is clear. This is no robbery. This is a message that someone out there has learned how to break the empire's most sacred system. In the shadows of Londinium, an exiled Roman engineer known only as Varro, the red resurfaces. Once punished for questioning the empire's use of infrastructural control, he's rumored to be working with local tribes, teaching them not to destroy the roads, but to jam them, to create confusion, mistrust, and misinformation by mimicking official courier codes and tampering with route markers. To flood Rome's bloodstream with noise, Rome responds with cold efficiency. The frumentari, imperial spies masquerading as merchants, are unleashed. Their orders: silence Varro, re-establish dominance, make an example. But the mission quickly turns unclean. One spy disappears near the northern hills. Another returns barely alive, mumbling of coded graffiti etched into milestones. Symbols that match the same strange emblem found where the courier vanished in episode 1. A hidden language, a parallel network. Back in Rome, a covert meeting takes place between the imperial archivist and the captain of the Praetorian Guard. They're beginning to suspect the message the lost courier carried wasn't just political. It may have included technical diagrams, blueprints of the Cursus Publicus itself. If those fall into Varro's hands, the Empire's control system could be inverted, turned against itself. Meanwhile, Cassia, the young scribe introduced earlier, deciphers a passage within an old scroll that describes an ancient protocol for severing regional communications. It's theoretical. It was never meant to be implemented. But someone out there, is doing it now. And as the sun sets over the Roman roads once believed eternal, fires begin to light along the hills. One by one, the Empire's arteries begin to bleed. In the empire that never sleeps, the Senate does not rule. It administers. And the true engine of Rome isn't the emperor's command. It's the paper trail, scrolls, ledgers, census records, supply manifests, tax codes. The empire breathes through bureaucracy. But what if someone within that machinery began changing the rules? Enter Lucius Petronius Varro, senior clerk in the census officium, a man with ink-stained fingers, an unshakable devotion to order, and a dangerous flaw, curiosity. While reviewing census returns from northern provinces, Lucius notices a ripple in the numbers. Entire towns listed with exact duplicate populations, down to the child. Trade volumes too perfect to be real. Grain counts that match older records word for word. He cross-references, he recalculates, and he finds something impossible. The data is being copied, looped, and reinserted. Someone is feeding the empire false stability, rewriting its numbers to maintain the illusion of control. He brings the anomaly to his superior. The response is cold. You must be mistaken. File it under irregularities. 2 nights later, Lucius returns home to find his scroll shelves burned. A freak fire, the vigils say. But the lock on his records chest is picked, and a single scroll is missing, the one bearing the copied census lines. And then comes the worst blow. The next morning, Lucius is summoned to a closed tribunal. Charges: falsification of imperial records, intent to destabilize census operations, treason. The evidence? A forged confession signed with his own broken seal. Stunned, Lucius is taken to the Mamertine prison. But while the cell doors close on him, a shadowy observer watches from above. A man with no title, only a ring bearing a strange emblem. The same symbol found near the vanished courier and etched into tampered milestones. Meanwhile, Cassia, the young scribe from episodes 1 and 2, finds a discarded ledger hidden in her late father's workshop. Her father, the mapmaker who was silenced for challenging Rome's infallible geography. The ledger includes coordinates, not of land, but of messages. Patterns, places where the data is being overwritten, and hidden in the margins, a warning. The map is not the empire. He who controls the numbers controls the truth. Lucius sits in the dark, facing fabricated justice. But someone else, someone higher, is playing a deeper game. And now, the documents meant to sustain the empire have become weapons. The denarius, the lifeblood of the Roman economy, was never just currency. It was propaganda. Every coin was a message, a face, a name, a reminder of who ruled, whose image shaped the world, and whose power backed every transaction. So when, in the marketplaces of Alexandria and the coastal ports of Hispania, a new coin begins to circulate, not bearing the emperor's face, but that of a woman no one recognizes, Rome takes notice. At first, it's dismissed as a local forgery, a novelty, a mistake by a provincial mint. But these coins are finely struck, silver of high purity, impossibly consistent in weight and craft, and on the reverse, a symbol familiar only to a few, the same mysterious emblem etched into stone mile markers, the one that haunts Cassia's hidden ledger. and was carved into the wall of Lucius Petronius's prison cell. The woman on the coin is regal, young, and stern, crownless, unnamed. And yet, as the coins spread, so do the stories. She was the emperor's daughter, hidden since birth. No, she's a rebel queen from the east, gathering forces in silence. A ghost of Rome's past, returned to reclaim the empire from the shadows. Some whisper she's not real at all, but an idea, a weapon shaped in silver and belief. In the Subura, radical pamphlets begin to appear beside statues. Follow the face. Truth has a mother. In secret taverns, toasts are made to Domina Umbra, the Shadow Empress. The Senate panics. The emperor's advisors convene an emergency session demanding answers from the imperial mint. But the mint denies everything. Their dies remain locked, their ledgers clean. Yet in back alleys and border towns, the coins keep appearing. Cassia, drawn by a hunch, travels to an abandoned coastal warehouse listed in her father's ledger. There, beneath tarps and broken crates, she finds remnants of a mobile mint, deconstructed but not erased. And among the debris, a parchment with only 4 words. The face precedes the fall. Meanwhile, Lucius Petronius, bruised but unbroken in the depths of his cell, is approached by a stranger, a woman dressed as a servant, but speaking with imperial clarity. She places one of the new coins in his hand. "You're not the only one they buried," she whispers. Outside the prison walls, riots break out over a shipment of tampered currency. Not because it was fake, but because it didn't bear her face. The empire had always controlled the narrative. Now someone else is writing the script, and the audience is starting to believe it. Religion has always been Rome's softest weapon. The temples, the rituals, the deified emperors, all tools in the empire's quiet campaign to root loyalty not just in law, but in belief. Worship was never just spiritual, it was civic. To honor the gods was to honor Rome. To doubt the divinity of the emperor was to question the empire itself. But something is stirring beneath the incense and marble. A new sect is rising, not one of open revolt, but of rejection. They call themselves Veritas, the truth. They do not shout, they do not riot. They gather in silence, in catacombs and abandoned amphitheaters, passing coins with the face of the unknown woman from episode 4. She is not their goddess. She is their signal, a sign that the empire is built on artifice, that the gods do not speak for Rome, and never have. Among them is Livia Severina, niece of the emperor. Brilliant, fierce, disillusioned. She had once stood beside her uncle at imperial ceremonies, her head bowed before Jupiter Optimus Maximus. But she had read too many forbidden scrolls, spoken too freely with Cassia in secret study halls, listened too carefully when an old slave whispered, "Before Rome spoke, the earth did." And now she attends Veritas gatherings, cloaked and anonymous, yet unmistakable to those who dare to look. Her presence ignites a rift. The Pontifex Maximus, Rome's highest religious authority, demands an investigation. The emperor hesitates, torn between family and image. But the high priests do not wait. They begin purging temples of suspected Veritas sympathizers. Arrests follow, tortures, public renunciations. One priest leaps into the Tiber rather than recite the emperor's divinity. Yet the movement spreads. The gods are watching, Veritas preaches, but they are not Rome's gods. In a remote province, a marble statue of Mars is found defaced, not with slogans, but with a carefully chiseled phrase in ancient Greek. Obedience is not divinity. Below it, a coin placed at the foot of the plinth. The woman's face again. Cassia, following temple archives her father once translated, uncovers fragments of an old, suppressed cult, one that predated the empire but worshipped no gods, only balance. She begins to suspect that Veritas is not new, but reborn. Back in Rome, Livia is arrested in secret. No trial, no charges, just disappearance. But before she vanishes, she smuggles a message to Cassia. A prayer written in code, and at the bottom, scratched faintly into the papyrus. When they bury truth in marble, they forget that marble cracks. The temples begin to empty. The priests demand obedience. And in the dark, the gods, or something else, are beginning to whisper back. On the Empire's volatile northern frontier, in the snow-choked forests of Germania, discipline is everything. The legions there, hardened, loyal, brutal, are the first and last line of defense against the chaos beyond Rome's borders. But even steel can rust. And now the rot begins. General Decimus Albinus, a veteran of 30 campaigns, commands Legio XIV from a stone fortress perched above the Rhine. He's respected, feared, and, until recently, unswervingly loyal. But something has shifted. It starts with an order. A sealed command scroll arrives from Rome. Reassign key forces south and prepare for internal containment operations. No more explanation. But Albinus, meticulous by nature, notes something strange. The scroll bears the proper seal, but the wax is too fresh, the script too rushed. A subtle error in the imperial code phrase, one only a commander would notice. A forgery. 2 days later, an outpost burns. Not from barbarian attack, but by Roman hands. A junior centurion, shaken and bloodied, arrives at Albinus's command tent. He claims he was ordered to destroy the outpost under suspicion of Veritas gatherings, but the villagers were loyal and unarmed. He had protested. His superior threatened him. When Albinus confronts the officer in charge, he finds him dead in his quarters, poisoned. A coin rests on the man's tongue. The woman's face again. Rumors surge through the camp like wildfire. Some say traitors walk among them. Others say the general has turned. Whispers echo of Livia Severina's arrest, of Veritas infiltrating even the legions. Albinus turns to his personal logbooks and finds something chilling. Troop movements across Germania are shifting, but not by his command. Dispatches forged in his name are rerouting his legions. Someone in Rome is controlling his army remotely. He sends a messenger to the capital. The rider never returns. At night, Albinus begins receiving anonymous missives. Wax tablets slipped under his door. On them, quotes from philosophers long outlawed by the imperial cult. Questions Rome fears. If law comes from power, then who governs the powerful? Obedience is loyalty. Questioning is faith. And each tablet ends with a warning. You are not alone, General. The Legion must choose. As tensions boil, Albinus faces an impossible decision. Does he obey the Empire, even as its orders come twisted and false? Or does he protect the idea of Rome, the real Rome, by turning against the very system he swore to uphold? One night, under the blood-red flicker of the campfire torches, he assembles his most trusted officers. He opens a scroll marked with the Emperor's seal and sets it ablaze. This empire, he says, no longer speaks with its own voice. The Legion watches as the fire devours the orders. And somewhere in Rome, behind a gilded mask, someone else takes note. Because the first sword has just turned. The storm has broken. Across provinces, temples smolder, roads are sabotaged, generals question their orders, and the name Veritas is no longer whispered. It is feared. But now, one message threatens to ignite everything. It's called Tabula Solis, the Sun Tablet. Sealed in black wax, encoded in layered Latin, Greek, and ciphered symbols. It was written by a former high official in the Imperial Archive, now presumed dead, and believed to contain proof of the Empire's most carefully buried truth, that for over a century, Rome's laws, census data, and even key senatorial decrees have been edited, rewritten, and reissued by an invisible hand. Not the emperor's, not the Senate's. Something older, something deeper. A secret bureau known only in scattered fragments as Umbra, the shadow. And now, the tablet has resurfaced. Smuggled out of a collapsed villa near Capua during a landslide, it fell into the hands of a wandering merchant. He sold it, unknowingly, to a black market collector in Ostia, who was murdered within a day. The assassin left nothing behind but a melted candle and a silver coin, her face staring up, calm as always. Cassia, following a trail of coded map references hidden in her father's final ledger, realizes what the tablet might contain. She races to intercept it, but she's not the only one. The Emperor's secret agents, the Custodes Occulti, are already searching. Ruthless, silent, and masked in civilian dress, they report not to the Senate or Palace, but to the Archivum Obscurum, a subterranean office no map dares name. Meanwhile, General Albinus, now in quiet rebellion, receives word from a contact in Narbo that the Tabula Solis names not only Umbra, but current Roman officials who were installed, not elected, puppet governors, fake revolts, a Senate choreographed like a stage play. And among those named, Lucius Petronius Varro, now labeled a traitor, but perhaps the Empire's last honest clerk. Inside his prison cell, Lucius is offered a deal. Confess, recant, and he will live, perhaps even be reinstated. But the coin given to him in episode 4 still rests under his cot, and he clutches it as the truth burns behind his eyes. He knows what he saw. The tablet's current location, unknown. Some say it's en route to Britannia, to be decoded by a monk who once served as a cipher scribe under Domitian. Others say it never left Italy, hidden by the Veritas sect in plain sight, perhaps inside a reliquary, a statue, or even beneath the very Senate floor. As the custodes tighten their net, Cassia makes contact with an unlikely ally, Livia Severina, now escaped and operating in disguise, leading a growing cell of Veritas defectors and rogue scholars. Together, they hatch a plan. Find the tablet, decode its contents, and reveal the truth publicly before Umbra can bury it forever. Because if they fail, the Empire won't fall in fire. It will rewrite the fall out of memory. And the next time someone vanishes for asking questions, no one will even remember their name. For over a century, the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, has been the Empire's most sacred myth. Emperors carved it into stone. Poets wove it into verses. Every coin, every monument, every speech reaffirmed the same illusion, that Rome had tamed chaos, that order was eternal, that the machine worked. But deep beneath the Forum of Peace, in a locked chamber within the Archivum Obscurum, lies a contradiction. Shelves of unredacted reports, of rebellions crushed, villages erased, treaties broken in secret, and governors replaced in quiet coups. And one woman has begun reading them. Her name is Drusilla Quint, a historian appointed by the imperial court to write an official chronicle of the Pax Romana for the Empire's anniversary. An honor, a trap. At first, she followed orders. She wrote the victories, skipped the blood, smoothed the timelines. But when a routine inspection in the archive reveals a scroll labeled Veritas Codex 4 Nullified Events, she opens it, and everything changes. She finds details of a peasant revolt that never reached the records because it was preemptively crushed using falsified grain shortages, of an entire border town flooded under natural circumstances despite orders to break its aqueduct, of forced census manipulations matching those discovered by Lucius Petronius Varro. The Pax Romana, she realizes, is not peace. It is surveillance plus silence. She begins leaking fragments anonymously, passages, statistics, redacted names. At first, few believe. Then Cassia deciphers one of her messages embedded inside a published poem, a reference to a ghost city beneath the sea, which matches a story buried in her father's lost map notes. Suddenly, whispers turn into shouts. The truth bleeds into the streets. Markets riot over false price controls exposed in the scrolls. Provinces demand audits. Priests renounce the gods they once used to justify the peace. A senator attempts suicide on the Senate floor after seeing his own family name in one of Drusilla's documents, tied to a suppressed ethnic purge in Dacia. The emperor, desperate to hold the narrative, orders Drusilla's arrest. But when guards storm her home, they find nothing but burning papers and a mural painted on the wall in ash and soot. There is no peace without truth. Drusilla has vanished. In her final leak, posted through Veritas channels, she references the Tabula Solis, confirming its existence and claiming it holds a detailed algorithm used to time events, distract populations, and rewrite public memory. As General Albinus receives word of the riots and Cassia prepares to intercept the final leg of the tablet's journey, something becomes clear. Rome isn't crumbling. It's waking up, and the myth of peace may have been the empire's most violent act of all. The collapse of the Pax Romana myth has shaken the empire, but the true fracture comes not with blood, but with math. In a forgotten study hall outside Ravenna, a recluse named Tertius Aelius, once a mathematical advisor to the imperial treasury, sifts through old census records, grain supply scrolls, and movement logs of the Cursus Publicus. What begins as academic curiosity, checking dates and weights, becomes a dizzying revelation. The numbers are too neat, too rhythmic. Troop movements, tax hikes, relief shipments, all spaced in a repeating pattern across provinces and decades. Every apparent random crisis followed by the exact same delay, the exact same response time. Even rebellions had echoes. Tertius begins plotting the data on wax boards. The result is a looping spiral, a cycle of action and reaction, precise, adaptable, self-correcting, an ancient feedback system. The empire, he realizes, was not simply managed, it was run by a pattern, by something like an algorithm, not digital but analog, crafted in scrolls, stone, and human behavior. Variables were people, triggers were events. Data came in the form of reports, rumors, and forecasts. And someone, long ago, had begun coding the empire like a machine. As he digs deeper, he finds fragments of a theoretical manuscript by an unknown author, simply signed Umbra. It speaks of constructing governance through rhythm, of predicting dissent before it begins, of using roads not just to move troops, but to pace populations. It describes a philosophy that sounds eerily modern. To truly control, do not punish. Anticipate, and when possible, make the people believe they arrived at peace on their own. Tertius contacts Cassia, now operating deep within Veritas's resistance cells. Together they confirm that parts of the Tabula Solis match Tertius's reconstructed pattern. The tablet is not just a message, it is a blueprint for Rome's self-regulating empire. An empire that could operate even without an emperor. Back in Rome, the inner circle is in chaos. The emperor's closest aides discover a hidden cache in the palace's foundation. Scrolls inscribed with strange sequences and event trigger codes, written decades before the current reign, predicting events that already happened. The implication? Even the emperor may have been selected by formula. General Albinus receives a coded missive from Cassia. The empire isn't broken, it's automated, and it no longer knows who's in control. Meanwhile, one of the custodes occulti goes rogue, delivering a chilling confession to Livia Severina. A group of curators beneath the Archivum Obscurum have been adjusting the algorithm for centuries. A secret priesthood of order, not faith. And now, with unrest breaking the cycles and data flooding in too fast, the algorithm is failing. It's producing errors, contradictions, overlapping commands. Rome is beginning to glitch. As Cassia decodes the final passage of the tablet, one line stands out. The empire was never meant to last. It was meant to repeat. And then comes the final twist. The algorithm wasn't just used in Rome. It was preserved, and it may still be active in something we're only just beginning to recognize. It begins not in the past, but in the present. A modern-day archaeologist named Dr. Layla Nassar, while leading a digital restoration project near ancient Carthage, uncovers a marble tablet laced with iron fragments. Strange, arranged deliberately. When scanned for mineral content, the fragments produce a perfect binary sequence, data, embedded in stone. Layla laughs at first, an impossible fluke. But when the sequence is translated using ancient Roman cipher keys, recently unearthed by a team from Bologna, it delivers a chilling line. Roma non periit, transivit. Rome did not fall. It transitioned. Cassia, Livia Severina, General Albinus, and the Veritas Network stand at the brink. The tabula solis has been decoded in full. It contains more than blueprints, more than predictions. It contains commands, instructions, not just to maintain control, but to perpetuate it. The roads were nodes, the temples, behavioral centers, the coins, data tokens, moving through hands, tracking movement and belief. Each message routed by the Cursus Publicus was not just communication, it was an input. Each decision, a reaction recorded and fed into the empire's analog memory. Rome didn't rule by sword alone, it ruled by feedback loops. They realize it too late. Umbra's algorithm didn't just automate the empire, it was designed to reboot it. Every few generations, through new faces, new ideologies, same structure, from republic to empire, empire to church, church to nation, always centralized, always observing, always promising order through control. In the modern world, Dr. Nassar publishes her findings, only to be discredited within hours. Her lab funding disappears, archives go missing, surveillance follows. One night, she receives a package with no return address. Inside, a silver coin, her face, and on the back, the ancient symbol of Umbra. Meanwhile, a closed-door summit of global intelligence leaders receives an anonymous document. The language is archaic, the diagrams disturbingly familiar. In the margins, a phrase circled in blood red. History is not memory, it is protocol. Back in ancient Rome, Cassia buries the tabula solis in a sealed vault beneath the Tiber with a final inscription. If you are reading this, it has already begun again. Rome never needed the internet. It was the internet. We just gave it a new name.